If I'm Kirby Smart, I am wrapping Nate Frazier up in bubble wrap for the next 6 months. Because right now, if that guy goes down, the Georgia Bulldogs are in serious, serious trouble at running back. Because right now, again, I don't think they have a solid, reliable number 2 running back on the roster right now. And that's a big problem. Because as we've seen, especially over the last 2 years, if you want to win a national title, right, you want to win big, you need outstanding play in the trenches, and you need at least 2 running backs to get the job done. And while Nate Frazier is on the verge of superstar status, I think if that dude gets hurt, I don't know where Georgia goes at running back. Now, they do have a couple guys who are trying to get healthier and trying to stay healthier, and I'm going to talk about those guys in a second, but eventually, one of these running backs has to step up and help Nate Frazier, who's just going to be a sophomore, right? He's coming off a tremendous freshman season, still needs to carry the ball or at least hold on to the ball a little better, right? Ball security has got to increase, but he flashed big playability and the potential to be a superstar sooner than later in college football. I think he could be one of the best running backs in the country, but if he's going to be at his best, he needs a solid, reliable number 2 running back, and that's something that Georgia has consistently had, ever since the Kirby Smart era and even before that, right? 2016, 2017, Georgia had the best running back duo in college football history. That's just a fact. Nick Chubb, Sony Michel, especially in 2017. 2018, they had DeAndre Swift and Elijah Holyfield. Both of those guys ran for 1,000 yards in that season. A lot of people forget how productive Elijah Holyfield was because DeAndre Swift was just that guy. He was that dog. 2019, it was DeAndre Swift again. It was kind of his show. It was DeAndre Swift, then kind of a gap, and then Brian Herrien and some others. I think Zamir White, James Cook were around them, but they were young. In 2020, it was kind of the Zamir White show in that shortened 2020 season. But then in 2021, they won the national championship because they had 2 outstanding backs, Zamir White and James Cook. You have to have 2, and Georgia doesn't have 2 right now. They've got some guys with the potential to step up and be that guy, but they got to be healthy. But you can't expect Branson Robinson, who hasn't been the same running back for 2 years now after his big knee injury after a freshman season in 2022 where he really shined. I mean, as a freshman in that season where they won the national championship, went undefeated, dude was a bowling ball, right? He ran through Auburn and ran through TCU at the end of that championship game. And it felt like he was going to have an even bigger sophomore season in 2023. He got hurt, missed all of that season, right? Thought he would be able to come back, be healthy, productive last season. Still just wasn't the same. He wasn't 100%, played in only 6 games, I think. He had a big touchdown against Kentucky, but really didn't see much from him. But in 2023, it was Kendall Milton and Daijun Edwards, right? Actually, the year before that, in 2022, they had Kendall Milton, Daijun Edwards, and Kenny McIntosh. So they had 3 guys that they could rely on, who could go out and make big plays for them, not only in the run game, but in the pass game as well. Those 3 really helped out. Kenny McIntosh left, and in 23, you had Kendall Milton and Daijun Edwards. It was a solid duo, no doubt about it. But we also saw flashes of Roderick Robinson, especially against Florida State. Just another battering ram, right? 230 pounds, just a truck. Really hard to tackle. And, this time last year, I'm thinking, okay, they've got Nate Frazier coming in. At the time, we knew that Trevor Etienne, was leaning Georgia's way. I don't know if this time, if he had transferred to Georgia or not, but between Etienne, Nate Frazier, who, we told y'all he was going to play as a freshman. I also thought that, a healthy Branson Robinson and Roderick Robinson would make an impact. And, that's on me. You can't expect running backs to stay healthy for a whole season, right? Especially at that position and especially playing in the SEC. And listen, if you're Georgia, I think you've got to be really lucky and thankful that Nate Frazier did not have any type of lingering injury issues last year because Trevor Etienne did. All right, there was a spurt, in the middle of the season, especially after that Florida game where he had the rib injury and he wasn't 100%. They had to rely on Nate Frazier, and I'm not sure what they would have done if Nate Frazier had gone down last year, and I feel the same way right now. So at the end of the day, they need better backs. They just do. I'm not expecting Roderick Robinson to be some, stud running back because he missed all last season basically with the turf toe. He's getting healthier, and I think he has the potential to be really good if he can stay healthy. I don't know if we're going to see that same Branson Robinson as we did in 2022. A lot of potential. The big, muscular, tackle breaking machine, right? But this is 2 years now. We barely seen anything from him. Hard to expect him to make an impact in this fall. Maybe he proves us wrong. I think, Kirby Smart would like that. Chauncey Bowens played a little bit last year. I don't think he's a number one, number two option. If he is, I think Georgia's in trouble. Dwight Phillips is that gadget back, right? He's more of a weapon. He is an elite speed guy who can make plays, right, in different ways, but that's not a guy who's running between the tackles, right? That he's not that type of running back. So again, he's more of a gadget weapon than a true running back. They signed Bo Walker, a 3-star running back in this last class, but outside of Nate Frazier, there's not an elite running back on the roster. Cash Jones is, was more of a pass catching running back last year than a true running back. So they need some help. And whether you give more opportunities and touches to Dylan Bell out of the backfield, maybe that's an option. But at the end of the day, I'm sitting here thinking if something happens to Nate Frazier, that's probably the last thing this team needs. And you can make the case he's the most important player on Georgia's offense. If Gunnar Stockton goes down, that's not ideal, but you've got a capable Ryan Puglisi right there to step in. And I think Georgia fans would be perfectly fine with that. On the offensive line, there's a lot of talent there, a lot of young guys, big, heavy, promising offensive linemen across the board there who could step up and try to fill that role and take that opportunity. At receiver, it's kind of a loaded group now when they brought in the 2 transfers and the addition of, 5 wide receivers out of high school. A lot of them are really good who are going to push for playing time. So if a wide receiver goes down here or there, that's not the end of the world. They've got tight ends, but they cannot afford an injury at running back, especially to Nate Frazier. They need him to be that lead dog, and they need someone to step up. I think ideally Roderick Robinson is that guy. If he's healthy and he can, show what he's capable of the way he did against Florida State, I think that's a great complementary back to what Nate Frazier brings. Nate Frazier's that electric, sudden, explosive running back, still at 200 plus pounds. The way he moves, I think he could be one of the best running backs at college football. Roderick Robinson's 230 pounds, right? That you got more muscle, right? Another just a truck, a bowling ball, whatever you want to call him. That's a guy who can wear down a defense. And, again, I think you have to talk about the offensive line too. That group has got to get better. They're replacing more starters. But at the end of the day, if you're Josh Crawford, Georgia's running back coach, you're going into Kirby Smart's office and saying, hey, we need to pay for running backs. We need to go out and get some of the very best. And the 2 best running backs in the country for the 2026 class, they're both really high on Georgia. They're both going to be on campus in June for an official visit. They are really, really important because Del McGee set a standard at Georgia at the running back position. And Josh Crawford's coming in and he's got to get to that standard, right? And, Georgia's running back still. And while they did take a step back last year, they can't do it again. They cannot go backwards next year as an offense. The running game has to get better. The offensive line play has to get better. And that's up to Mike Bobo, Stacey Searles, and Kirby Smart to make them better, to game plan and scheme up a way where they're more productive. They've got to be more productive in the run game. But if you look at the room right now, it's possible superstar Nate Frazier, who had some ball security issues. Then it's a gap, and then it's running backs that are either inexperienced or have had their share of serious injuries, right? So I do think that's one of the bigger question marks on this team, especially on the offense going into the spring. And again, if I'm Kirby Smart, I'm telling Nate Frazier, hey man, you don't have to go all out in the spring, right? The last thing they need is for him to go down with an injury, because then I don't know what they're going to do. Then, depending on what type of injury it is, and I'm not trying to speak that into existence, obviously, but it happens, right? As we've seen, running backs go down, and sometimes they can go down for a long, long time. Some of it happens on Saturdays in the fall, but often, it happens in the spring and in practice. Any particular day, a running back puts his foot in the ground, something can happen, right? So you've got to have guys who can step up and be ready. Maybe it's Chauncey Bowens. Maybe it's the freshman who comes in and impresses a lot. Maybe it's, Branson Robinson or Roderick Robinson who can get back to their full potential, get back to their full health. But they've got to stay healthy because, again, it's a long season. Georgia's playing a lot of really good quality defenses next year. They need another running back. Ohio State had 2 outstanding running backs last year. They won the national title. Michigan had 2 really good running backs when they won the title. Blake Corum, Donovan Edwards. Georgia in 2022, they had 3 options. None of them were elite, but all 3 were pretty good college running backs and were good enough to get the job done. And the year before that, obviously, Zamir White, James Cook led the way, 2 outstanding college running backs. And so, we're at the point in college football where it is all about establishing the line of scrimmage, winning that part of the game, and developing a run game. And I think Georgia's going to really struggle to run the football, especially if Nate Frazier, goes down for whatever reason. Kirby Smart, Josh Crawford, they need to do everything they can to keep that young pup safe and healthy, especially this spring. They're going to need him in a big way this fall. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you learned something. Of course, you can read all of this and more over on Dawg Post. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.